You're listening to the Bluegrass Jamboree, playing the best in bluegrass, bluegrass gospel, and traditional country. TheBluegrassJamboree.com.
Hello, and welcome to another segment of Hear It Here, heard only on the BluegrassJamboree.com. I'm Brett Smeltzer, your host of Bluegrass Retrospect, which is normally heard every Friday evening, but today I am honored to be hosting Hear It Here as I talk with my featured artist and special guest, Becky Buller, who is a 2-time Grammy Award-winning songwriter, as well as a 8-time International Bluegrass Music Association award-winning bluegrass artist. I would like to also add that she made music history by being the first artist ever to win both instrumental and vocal categories, as well as being the first female ever to win Fiddle Player of the Year in 2016. It's my pleasure to have Becky with me on the phone today as we talk about her new single, The Barber's Fiddle, from her forthcoming album Distance and Time, recorded on the Dark Shadow recording label. Becky, thank you for your time to speak with me today, and welcome to Hear It Here on the BluegrassJamboree.com.
Brett, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a long time. We were talking off the air about that. I can't believe how long it's been, but it's just great to hear your voice. How are you doing?
So far, so good. If we could stay away from this pandemic, we'll be doing just fine. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I know. If it's not one thing, it's a pandemic, isn't it?
This is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I recall meeting you for the very first time at the Coleman Station Bluegrass Festival that was in Friedens, Pennsylvania. And this is clear back in July of 2014. And I recall seeing you there at the time with Darren and Brooke Aldridge. And I thought, oh my gosh, but there's Becky Buller. I was there with Stony Creek Bluegrass Band, as well as being there with Sideline, Mitch Harold, and the Reno Brothers, Idle Times, South 79, Remington Ride, and it's great to be talking with you after, it's almost been 6 years since that's happened.
It's been a while, yeah.
For the listeners tuning in, could you tell us a brief history about yourself and what led you to play bluegrass music and who were your influences?
Sure. Well, I grew up playing music with my family. My parents got interested in bluegrass when I was about 5 years old and quickly became part of a band called Prairie Grass, and they had that band from the time I was 5 or 6 until I graduated from high school. When I was about 9 years old, I decided I wanted to be part of the band. I wanted to sing in the band, and they said, well, you can't just sing something. This is bluegrass. Everybody plays something, so you have to play an instrument. And I looked at their lineup and I realized they didn't have a fiddle, and so I started gigging them for fiddle lessons, and it took about a year to convince them that I was serious. I had already been playing piano up to that point, but they finally got me some violin lessons, and I studied classical violin, and I learned bluegrass on the side on my own from records, a little bit from my violin teacher who knew that I really wanted to play fiddle, and did all that. Then ended up going to bluegrass school at Johnson City, Tennessee, East Tennessee State University, studied in their bluegrass old time and country music program, graduated with a degree in public relations, took a job with Valerie Smith and Liberty Pike, and moved to the Middle Tennessee area. And I have been in Tennessee now from the time I came down for school. Since 97, actually. So a long time. I'm married a Tennessee boy. I live in Manchester now, just south of Nashville, and I have a daughter who is 7 and have my own band now. It's crazy.
Wow.
My own band since 2015 and just enjoying the ride.
Obviously, fiddle is your strong point, and you also took piano. Are there other instruments that you play?
Yeah, I'm actually, now that I've been home quite a bit, I've been playing some more piano and having a lot of fun with that, trying to help my daughter with her piano lessons. I am not her piano teacher. She has a wonderful piano teacher who lives just down the road from us, Miss Weaver, but I try to help Romy with her practicing, and it's got me trying to get my chops back on it. But if you come to a Becky Buller band show, I will normally play mostly fiddle, of course, but I'll switch to guitar and clawhammer banjo at some point in the show, just to show you that I can do it.
Okay.
And I dabble on a lot of other instruments, but for the most part, those 3 go with me everywhere I go.
I also noticed on your website that you offer online fiddle classes. Is this correct?
Yes, I have done that. I've backed off on that for the time being. I said I'm on hiatus. You never say you're going to quit anything nowadays. You just go on hiatus. And I may get back into that sooner rather than later, but I have offered fiddle and clawhammer and songwriting coaching and vocal coaching through my website. I've backed off of it now for a little bit because I've been helping my daughter with her homework.
Oh, yeah.
And found that I just really needed to free up some time to do that. And the band requires a lot of things. I do a lot of things in the background to help us be ready to go out on the road. And so I just found that I had to stop teaching the private lessons for a little bit so that I could do the stuff that my family needed and that the band needed. But I do still teach at workshop weeks. If you just check my schedule, that's in flux right now because of what we're all going through with the pandemic. So some of the events have had to cancel or reschedule. But if folks would just check on my website, BeckyBuller.com, that's BeckyBuller.com. We have our tour schedule there. I'm keeping it updated as things reschedule. So please go check that out, and hopefully folks can join us for those events or the camps and the shows. We love getting out there and sharing the music and helping people realize their dreams of playing the music too.
As a songwriter, you have quite the list of artists who have recorded your songs. Could you just share with us some of those artists who have recorded the songs you have written?
Well, the String Dusters had a co-write of mine that I wrote with Jeremy Garrett. The song was called Freedom, and it was the lead-off track on their album Laws of Gravity that won the 2018 Bluegrass Grammys. And then I co-wrote The Shaker with Alan Bartram, and that was featured on the Traveling McCoury's self-titled album that won the 2019 Bluegrass Grammy. So very, very awesome things there. I'm so proud for those guys. So tickled to be involved in those projects. But Doyle Lawson has recorded my songs, Valerie Smith, Kenny and Amanda Smith, Third Time Out, Ricky Skaggs, Rhonda Vincent, so many groups. I'm just so honored. It's crazy, you write a song
that's
and
great.
You never know where it's going to end up.
Yes, ma'am.
And our words are like that too. You say something and you don't realize the power in your words or the effect that those words may have on somebody, like, today, tomorrow, and beyond. You just never know. But yeah, gosh.
Well, good for you. Well, I mean, congratulations on all that, especially knowing that they go to Grammys. Now, when you say Bluegrass Grammy, are you talking the IBMA or are you actually talking the Grammys, which
the
is
Grammys, the
Grammys.
Recording Academy.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Good for you. Good for you.
Thank you.
We're going to go back to July of 2014 in regards to the Coleman Station Bluegrass Festival. I got to talk to you for the first time, which I thought was monumental, if you don't mind my saying. But during some of the shows, I was mentioning to you that I'm with the Jamboree, but you had told me that you hosted a radio show yourself. Are you still doing that?
Unfortunately, I had to let that go too a few years ago because, well, as we said before, my husband and I have a daughter, and she's 7 years old now. Her name's Romy. And I hated that I had to give the radio show up. I really enjoyed doing it. That was on WMSR here in Manchester, Tennessee. And I really, really enjoyed it. I did that show for about 8 years. And I hope at some point I'll be able to get back into radio. And I love that it kept me current with all the wonderful music that my peers are putting out. And I feel a little disconnected now. It's hard for me to keep up. There's so much great music coming out these days.
Maybe I have asked you this earlier, or you had mentioned it. What other bands prior to you leading up to your own band have you played for?
Well, as I mentioned before, I played in my parents' band, Prairie Grass, and that was up in Minnesota, and we got down into Iowa. We traveled as far as the geographical center of South Dakota. That was probably our biggest gig ever. We played on a buffalo farm, and we got paid in a buffalo hide and an old cook stove.
What?
And then after that, I went down to East Tennessee State. Oh, let's see. I played for a group called Becky Schlegel and True Blue for a summer right before I headed down to school. And then when I got to ETSU, I played in several different bands on campus, including the ETSU Pride Band, which is the flagship band, a bluegrass band out of the Bluegrass Old Time and Country Music program there at ETSU. Got to travel to France with that group, got to play at the Kennedy Center. Also, during my time at ETSU, I was part of the group Appalachian Trail and got to do some really cool things with them, including some of the National Folklife festivals. Right after I graduated from school, I went to play with Valerie Smith and Liberty Pike, and I was part of Val's band for 10 years, from 2001 to 2011. And I got married in 2009, and we were hoping we would be able to have kids, and so I got off the road for a little bit. And then of course, I do everything backwards. So I was pregnant with our daughter and took the job with Darren and Brooke Aldridge and played for them for about 2 seasons. And when I met you, I was actually working my way out of their band because Romy had started walking, and my husband said, "You can't do this anymore." He's like, "I can't. This is too much for me to, you got to be able to make your own schedule." And so that was the point where I had painted myself into a corner. I had done the record Tween Earth and Sky with Dark Shadow Recording, and I needed to be out to sell the record because, the bulk of sales for a bluegrass artist are on the road.
Yes, ma'am.
At the festivals and the concerts and stuff. So I needed to be on the road selling that music, but I needed to be able to make my own schedule. So I had to start my own band. So I feel like I kind of held my nose and jumped off a cliff, but I've enjoyed it. I
Yes,
really
ma'am.
have.
Well, you seem to have landed softly with taking that leap of faith.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
I've
ma'am.
got a great group around me, and I've had a great group of people come through the band, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But so
Sure.
I started my own band at the top of 2015 and have been doing that ever since.
Let's go ahead and talk about your latest single, The Barber's Fiddle. Great tune. What inspired you to write this song?
The Barber's Fiddle is a convergence of 3 different stories. So there's a lot of truth in this song, but it is all fictionalized. The initial story, the skeleton that we hung this song on, it came from a story that someone told me at Dollywood. I was playing there with Val years and years ago, and somebody came up to me and told me this story about a barber in their hometown who had been a professional fiddle player, and it didn't work out for him, so he came home and he didn't have any money to get a haircut, so he hocked his fiddle to get a haircut so he would be presentable when he showed up at his parents' doorstep. Right. We took that story, and then we took the real life Gene Boyd from the Star Barber Shop in Bristol, Virginia. I got to meet Gene when I was going to school at ETSU, and I just really enjoyed the Thursday morning jams up at his barbershop, and he's just a great guy, great family, just a great community of pickers up there in the Tri-Cities, Tennessee area. And I'm so blessed to have gotten to learn from those folks. So we used Gene Boyd as our barber in the song, and we used his barber shop. And then the other story that played into this was that of Mr. Billy Womack from Woodbury, Tennessee. And Mr. Billy played with Wilma Lee and Stoney Cooper for a little while, and he also played with Bill Tipton. But he just felt like the road was just too hard a life for him, and so he had his barber shop there in Woodbury. And so many different folks came through that shop and learned how to play music from Mr. Billy. And he was also big buddies with Kenny Baker and John Hartford. Benny Martin sat on one of Mr. Billy's fiddles, and they were able to put that fiddle back together, and it's still kicking around here, lives in Manchester, Tennessee now. They call that fiddle Patches, and it sounds really good. So anyway, we took Mr. Billy's story, and he was also an influence in this song. But I wrote this song with Linda Dawson from Raleigh, North Carolina. I feel so blessed. We wrote it a long time ago, and I got to sing it for Mr. Gene Boyd before he passed away. Unfortunately, I couldn't get in the studio to get it recorded until this album, but I'm just so glad it's out there in the world now.
I also noticed that there are other artists who were sharing the lyrics throughout the song. So in regards to this track alone, what artists are making their guest spots on this particular song?
The Becky Buller Band is playing on this cut, and that is Ned Luberecki on the banjo, Daniel Harden on the bass, Professor Dan Boner on guitar and fiddle, Nate Lee on mandolin and fiddle, and yours truly, Becky Buller, on the fiddle. So the 3 fiddles that you hear at the top of this song and at the end are myself, Nate Lee, and Professor Dan from the Becky Buller Band. And then we have 18 fiddlers total on this track. And I'll get into that list in a second. I do have guest vocalists on here with me helping me tell this story. So the first voice that you hear other than mine is Jason Carter from the Traveling McCurrys and the Del McCurry Band. And then Katie Penn and Sam Bush, Lori Lewis, and Sean Camp.
I'm familiar with most of those voices. Some I wasn't sure who they were. But let's back up a second. You're saying you had 18 fiddles on this song alone.
So, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
And yeah. So everybody that I just mentioned there, everybody who sings with me is also playing fiddle on here. And then we also have Laura Orshaw from the Poor Ramblin' Boys, Bronwyn, Keith Hines, from Mile 12, Deanie Richardson from Sister Sadie, Michael Cleveland, Johnny Warren from the Earls of Leicester is playing his dad, Paul Warren's fiddle on this cut. I get goosebumps every time I say that. Stuart Duncan is on here, my personal favorite fiddle player. Brian Christensen, Tyler Andall, and Fred Carpenter from the Violin Shop in Nashville. Jason Berry from Joe Mullins and the Radio Ramblers.
Wow.
And I feel like I'm missing somebody. I think I might have got everybody there. I apologize if I missed somebody. It was so hard choosing who we could have on there, and everybody except Lori was able to come into the studio, not at the same time, of course, because of schedules and stuff, but they were able to come into the Dark Shadow recording studio there in Tennessee and record their parts, and then Lori had to fly hers in from California.
Wow. Are you all playing in unison, or is it broken up to where a section's playing one octave and another group's playing another octave? How is that working?
Well, we had the 3 parts in the triple fiddle lines there, and we had everybody go through and play those parts. We were calling that gang fiddles, and then we had a room for a few shreds so that you could hear certain fiddlers doing their thing, and that's toward the end of the song. But I want to tell people the best way to experience this, of course, we want you to download it, please, or stream it. Wherever you do your downloading and streaming, this track is now available. But also, we have put out a really beautiful video, also put together by my producer, Stephen Mogen. He can do anything. He's amazing.
Yeah.
So he put out a beautiful video, and I believe by the time this airs, this will be available everywhere. And so just check my socials for the link on this. But right now, this week, it's premiering at bluegrassridgetv.com. And we just appreciate the folks in New Blue that do Bluegrass Ridge TV for debuting this video for us. And Stephen managed to incorporate scenes that we filmed at Cutshaw's Barber Shop in Manchester, Tennessee, which feature, this is really cool. So our barber in the video is Ray Seckler. He is the son of Curly Seckler from Flat and Scruggs, and he is my neighbor. Wow. I feel so blessed to have him as a neighbor. And then Buzz Cutshaw, whose dad owns Cutshaw Barbershop. Buzz is our little boy in the video. And then Pastor Jake Dorak from my church, First Baptist Church here in Manchester. He is the older version of Buzz who comes back to visit Mr. Ray as the grown-up fiddle player. And then Mojo incorporated those scenes in the barbershop with scenes from the studio. So we were able to get all 18 fiddlers and the Becky Buller Band in the video. You've got to check it out. And then you can see who does what shred at the end, the fiddle shreds at the end of the video. So please check that out. You can get to all of our social media pages through my website. We have got buttons conveniently located right at the top of my website, BeckyBuller.com, to get to all of our social pages and find out what we're up to.
I had the pleasure to recently speak with both Yana and Stephen Mogen in regards to his latest single, I'm Gonna Ride, and he invited folks to check out his behind the scenes of that video as well. Knowing that Stephen Mogen has produced this for you as well, I'm sure the folks out there are going to really enjoy this video as much as they probably have with I'm Gonna Ride.
And,
Great.
you know, I would let's give a quick plug to Mojo, because Stephen Mogen has been playing with the Sam Bush Band for a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
And he's a monster musician. He's an incredible producer, great human being, and I'm just so proud for him that he's finally put out his own solo album. So I hope that you all will go check that out. He's got a single out now, another single coming out mid-April, and the whole album is coming out in May. So please give him some listening love and check out his new music.
Other than this particular track, with the forthcoming album, Distance and Time, what additional artists will be included in the entire album?
Oh, I can't talk about that yet. It's all hush hush, nudge nudge, wink wink, say no more, say no more.
Okay.
But I would love to come back on if you'll have me back on.
Oh, I certainly will.
Album ready. I'll give a teaser for the new single. We're supposed to have the second single out at the top of May. It's a cover, and I believe it's our only cover. No. We have 2 covers on the new record, but this will be. This is kind of it's a different sort of song for me, but it is so much fun. And it has some gospel overtones to it, and I hope people will enjoy it. So please be on the lookout for that at the top of May.
Now, in regards to the forthcoming album, are most of these songs on the album, are they originals written by you, or are you going to also dip into covering some traditional tunes?
This album is a little bit different for me. It pushes the envelope a little bit, but not a whole lot. We have 2 cover songs on there, and the rest are songs that I've written or co-written. We've got some more traditional sounding things like the Barber's Fiddle, and then we have some things that are a little bit more out there. But I am influenced by all branches of the bluegrass family tree, as well as things that come from beyond bluegrass. So all of those influences are going to be showcased on this new record. But the band has done a fabulous job backing me up and following me in some of these crazy places that we've gone with the music on this record. And I can't wait for y'all to hear it. I'm really pleased with it. I'm excited to get it to you. And again, that's coming out July 17th, if all goes as planned. And if we're able to be back together, I hope that you will join the band and I at the Station Inn in Nashville, Tennessee, July 17th, 9 o'clock. We're going to be doing an album release. I know for sure we're going to have one of our special guests there, and I won't say any more about that.
What digital outlets are going to be available for the folks to download this album, as well as how can the folks go about acquiring any hard copies of this album? Because right now, everything is shut down. Stephen Mogen was hoping to do their album release at the Station Inn on May 8th, but we don't know if that's going to happen right yet. But
yes, I'm supposed to be there for that.
Well, in the event that that doesn't happen, how are the folks able to acquire this hard copy when it does come out?
Of course, you can go to my website, beckybuller.com, and you can purchase a hard copy there when we get ready for that. Right now, the Barber's Fiddle is available for download wherever you do your downloading. I'm an iTunes person. I guess it's Apple Music now. It's not iTunes anymore. See, I'm behind the curve. And then Amazon, if you stream on Spotify or Pandora or any of those outlets, you can find it there as well. And I just want to say thanks for listening. There's just so much out there now and so much for people to listen to and enjoy. And I just appreciate folks taking the time to hear our new music. And Brett, thank you for having me on the show and doing what you do to keep bluegrass music on the air.
Oh, it's certainly my pleasure. And like I said, it's this is my first time talking to a Grammy winner, a 2-time Grammy winner for that matter. So I'm honored. Again, this is monumental to me. So, well, before we play the Barber's Fiddle, I want to thank you once again for allowing me to talk to you today in regards to this release. And as I always tell all my featured artists and special guests, I wish you all the best with this single and the forthcoming album. I wish you safe travels in all that you go out and venture. And yes, I would love to have all of the members of the band back here to talk with me, or maybe one of the other DJs, in regards to the album Distance and Time when this is made available. So thank you again for being part of Hear It Here on the BluegrassJamboree.com.
It's our pleasure. Thank you, guys. And thank y'all out there for listening. We sure do appreciate it. And we aim to please. Y'all be well, be blessed, and we will see you soon.
And without further ado, here's Becky Buller's latest single, The Barber's Fiddle, from her forthcoming CD, Distance and Time, recorded on the Dark Shadow recording label. Available for digital download and hard copies July 17th, 2020. And it's heard right here on the BluegrassJamboree.com.
Mr. Jean's Barber Shop, State Street, the Virginia side. I walked in hand with Pa, 5 years old and terrified. Mr. Jean smiled at me, helped me up into the chair. In the mirror I could see an old red fiddle hanging there.
Caught my gaze, said that's a tale I'd like to tell of a young man who came in one day with a fiddle and a dream to sell.
He tried to live out on the road, thought music was where he belonged. Well, it broke his heart and it broke his soul, made him sing a different song. Fiddle up high, fiddle down low, fiddle most everywhere I go. I'd fiddle until my dying day, if I can make a life on a fiddler's pay.
very chair, scared of what his folks would say. His hope was gone, his pockets bare. They warned him it would end this way.
He returned to start anew. No money for a shave and trim. He asked, would this fiddle do? Said it wasn't any use to him. Fiddle up high, fiddle down low. Fiddle most everywhere I go. I'd fiddle until my dying day, if I can make a life on a fiddler's pay.
Mr. Jean swept the floor, spun me around and said, you're done. I begged him to tell me more. What happened to the wayward son?
Turns out it was Mr. Jean hung his fiddle up that day. Now I'm living out his dream because he taught me how to play. Fiddle up high, fiddle down low, fiddle most everywhere I go. Gonna fiddle until my dying day, if I can make a life on the fiddler's pay. Fiddle up high, fiddle down low, fiddle most everywhere I go. I'm gonna fiddle until my dying day, if I can make a life on the fiddler's pay. Living my life on the fiddler's pay.
Well, folks, that wraps up another segment of Hear It Here, heard only on the BluegrassJamboree.com. Be sure to tune in and join us again. I'm Brett Smeltzer. Until next time, take care, be safe, and God bless. So long, everyone.